Hello, that biotech guy here again. Many of you have been asking, how can I really start my own farm? So I've been doing research and everybody's telling me you need so many things, you need a lot of equipment before you can start a farm. So today we are here to discuss what exactly are you supposed to get to start your own poultry farm. There are many different things that are required when we are going to start such a project. There are many things like land, the water, the feed. So I'll not be going into such, but what I wanted to do was to get into the equipment required for us to start a farm. Why do I want to get into the equipment? Because things like the land, the water source, these might be a big issue to people who want to start large. But then why would you want to start large if you have no experience? You get, whereby if you have experience, then I'm hoping you already know these things, that you will need the land, you will need the power source, you will need the electricity, you will need the things like that, the temperature monitors. But hey, you don't have to worry. We shall be going into step by step discussing everything that you would require. So first of all, let's start with the budget. So most people would call it a business plan. So why is it important to have a business plan? In your business plan, you would be describing how the business will run and the details of the business. This would make sure you understand what you're going to do. Necessarily, it doesn't mean like you must have the information, but at least you come up with it. Makes you basically get the knowledge about what you're getting into, because you have to write about the projections, you have to write the costs, you'll have to write what you expect to spend and what you expect to bring in. How long are you keeping the birds on the farm? So all these things. So in the process of making the business plan, you will be able to already have some information about the business. After the business plan, what we need is the coop. In simple terms, we could call it the house, the chicken house. So there are different types of chicken houses depending on the available space you have. In the next video, we shall be describing the types of houses that you could use to put up your chicken farm. But like the one I have in the background, this is like a 3-layer. It's like this one, it's a 3-layer farm whereby birds are either up here, middle here, or down here. This is good for people who are in like urban centers that have little space. So instead of expanding across, you expand upwards. So that is also, and this is old model, but then there are those that you could separate the layers and then you leave and a bit open so that the droppings go through and you clean down. But for this one, you have to open it from the other side and directly clean it. But that will come in detail in the next video. Another thing are the feeders. So what do I mean by feeders? The feeders are the materials or the equipment you will put the feed in or the chicken food in. It doesn't necessarily mean you must buy the feeders. You can improvise. You can pick containers and maybe cut like old buckets. You cut the lower part. But for me, I have these. These are called like the trough feeders. These were used a long time ago. So the trough feeder, this is the trough feeder. It's long, and there are different types of feeders whereby there's a trough feeder, there's a tube feeder, and then there are also automatic feeders. The automatic feeders are good for like big farms because you would need to minimize food wastage since you have so many birds. So whereby like a trough feeder would be good for somebody with a small farm and you can constantly monitor and change the food. But then on a farm of like 10,000 birds, if you were to put in trough feeders, the time you would take would be long. So such places usually use like automatic feeders that would be easier to distribute the food and quicker. So after the feeders, we also know that the chicken need water. So the next thing would be the drinkers. They are either called drinkers or waterers. So The drinkers can also be DIY, do it yourself, like cut buckets, but then you need to make sure it's at a comfortable position. Even with the feeders, it's a comfortable position where the chicken can be able to feed from it or drink from it. Don't put it so high or so low. So if they're still young chicks, you would consider putting something that is really low so that they can be able to access the food or the feed. Just like the feeders, the waterers are also in types. There are these ordinary waterers that are common, the ones that like you turn upside down and put in the water. So let me show you mine. So this is my waterer, where if I need to put in water, you just open this part, it's hollow, turn it upside down, pour in the water, and then you fit the bottom part. It has a hole. It has a hole that will let out water once the chicken are drinking. The water will never overflow. Even if you fill this whole thing, the water will not overflow. So this is a drinker, the one that I'm currently using. But then this is not the only type of drinker, because unlike large farms, there is something that has come up that is called a nipple drinker. A nipple drinker is whereby like it has nipples, and when the chicken pecks, it produces water, then the chicken can take in. If you're planning on bringing in chicks, you need to put like a brooding area, commonly called a brooder. So what is a brooder? Remember, you're bringing in very young chicks. Some of them don't even have the feathers, and then you're going to care for them. So if you're in a cold environment, the coldness can affect the chicken. So in your brooder, you would have to put in optimum temperatures. If you've noticed, when it's cold, the hen usually covers the chicks under its feathers. That is to give it the warmth. So in this situation, you don't have the hen to care for your chicks. That means you are going to do what the hen is supposed to do. If it's cold, you would have to provide the heat. If it's hot, and there are ways you could see, if they are clogged together, they are trying to generate heat. That means you'd have to give it heat. If they're evenly dispersed, you just know, there's a good environment. If they are so far away from the heat source, it means it's too hot and you need to do away with the heat source. So basically, that is with the brooder. On farms where you'd want to produce like chicks for others to buy, you would need to have like that incubator. You can incubate the eggs and produce chicks. Then you could sell off as like 1-day-old chicks. Just another thing, like you need egg collection equipment. Usually for like layers, you are having like 500 birds and maybe like 400 are laying. So you'd have a lot of eggs and you would need to carefully collect them without spoiling the eggs, because you know eggs are very delicate, they can easily break. So you need to find a way of collecting your eggs properly and cleaning them and all those things. So you would need egg collecting equipment on your farm, if you're most especially if you're looking at layers. But even broilers lay eggs. I don't know if you knew that. Yes, broilers lay eggs. And
in my opinion, that is what my professor friend of mine once said, that is what you get when you the hobo pejoratively hobnobs with the hobo. For me, I will not photo in their.
Just a reminder, if you like this type of content, I would like you to hit that like button so that this video can be recommended to more other people. Also, soon we shall be putting up our demo farm here, and we are going to do the filming from cleaning, preparing, sourcing the materials, resources, all that, till we sell off the birds. So if you want to be part of that journey, we would be glad if you subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends so that they could all come in and we all start together. We don't want to be on the way and then people asking, hey, how did you clean the place? Hey, why didn't you? So it's better if we all board the bus at the same time. They cannot eat. Okay, they cannot eat at night. That means you'd have to provide the light for them to eat at night. If you can see here, I have a wire that is to the power source, and then there's a switch. During day it's switched off, but at night it's turned on so that they can continue eating and grow. There are some types of bulbs that give heat. So instead of putting like the pot, soon we shall be discussing the disadvantages, the differences of the heating systems, and what are the risks of certain heating systems. Currently there are bulbs that can provide both light and heat to like the chicks in the brooder. If you look at the chicken house behind me, there is a lot of space covered in wire mesh, so that is also a in simple terms I would call it the ventilation system. So now if you are building your house, whether urban, whether big farm, whether just trying out at home, make sure you have a good ventilation system. This is going to help with your farm smelling, and if the ventilation is not good, the ammonia is going to keep clogged into the chicken house and it will keep smelling. So you would have to prevent that smelling by putting a proper ventilation system for your farm. For people that want to get into layers, chicken need dark spaces where they can be able to lay eggs. I hope that sound is not really disturbing, but there is one cock inside here. But soon, actually there is one cock, but soon we shall be bringing in chicks and we shall have to move this one elsewhere. I was talking about the nesting pads. Layers usually need a dark, comfortable place where they can lay from. They will not just lay in open space, and that is obvious. We all know that. So when you are going to have layers, you'll need to create something like that for them. This will give them the comfort, and then you just know if somebody is comfortable there, you expect better results. So that is what I would suggest you include, maybe laying boxes in your farm. Another important thing would be like the cleaning supplies. It's not very obvious to use anything you come across, because remember things like soap, and yes, they do the cleaning, but are they the right supplies that you would need to clean your farm? There are disinfectants, that would really be of importance if you included them in your farm. For instance, when you are getting into the farm, like at the doorway, we would advise you put like they're usually just called biosafety measures. You put like a drainage where you pour some disinfectant, and every time you're getting in, you step in, and maybe things like that. This is to prevent like carrying any microorganisms from out into your farm, because you might be the vector that is going to cause losses to yourself. So it's important you consider doing these biosafety measures. So if you can't put it like during construction, you could get maybe like a bucket, or maybe cut half a jerry can and you put in the disinfectant. Whoever is accessing the farm has to either go in, or you could do like the factories do. You could have like maybe gumboots, whereby whoever is entering leaves their shoes outside and then puts on gumboots, things like that. Maybe you have like an overall that is used only inside and not taken outside. This would prevent carrying diseases from outside the farm into your farm, and this would save you a lot. One final thing that I know Africans usually don't consider is record keeping. So I would advise you, in this business, it's really very important to do record keeping. Why? You might not realize that you're actually overspending past your budget. You get, because maybe you started farming, let's say broilers are taking 6 weeks, so you stocked food for 3 weeks. You bought your feeds at maybe 1,200. Imagine you feed went to like 2,000, and you're just buying so that the birds can reach 6 weeks and you sell off. The question would be, are you still getting the profit? So record keeping would be able to track and say, okay, I did this, I did that, I did that, I did that. And there are many other things on the farm that would require record keeping. For instance, the vaccination schedules, for instance, when we put up a farm, we are going to calculate the growth rate so that we see. So there's no way you can calculate growth rate if you don't have the data. You get? So things like this would require proper record keeping. Your clients, your customers, your suppliers, all that would be really important. And for the first time, it may not make sense, but like 3-4 times down the road, Using these same records, you could be able to estimate and say, okay, during this month, I had very good sales. During this month, I had bad sales. It means in the next year, you'd be able to say, okay, this month is when I'll stock a lot more. This month, there's a lot of competition. But you can only use that if you have the factual records of the previous seasons. If you like this type of content, I would like to thank you for always coming back here, and I would like to request you to hit the subscribe button so that you can join the community. Share this video with your other friends and smash that like button to help other people find this type of video. Thank you. Till next time.